would rather say he was more like a record label or a family.
Were you a founder of YSL?
No comment.
Now, Young Thug was in court today, all day. And they were arguing some of those little intricate details. We talk about what you can bring in the trial. What about this arrest? Was this lawful? What this wasn't? And there should be some more news coming about that later. But what's also making headlines is one of the other co-founders, alleged co-founders of YSL, turning on Young Thug. So there's a guy by the name of Walter Murphy. This guy right here. Now, Walter Murphy has a YSL tattoo on his head. He alleges to be, well, he's alleged to be. He doesn't allege it. They allege that he's one of the founders of YSL. And it seems like Gunna wasn't the only one to turn his back on Young Thug, man. It seems like this guy saw the room to make a move, and the fact that he had prior arrests in the past, he decided to move on. So let's talk a little bit about this guy right here, right? This guy, Walter Murphy, right? And I'm going to be referencing this story from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, man, before we get to the video of what he said himself. Now, in this article, it talks about Murphy, according to court documents. Okay, so there's two co-defendants, including Atlanta rapper Gunna, who have entered negotiated guilty pleas ahead of the RICO trial against the alleged Young Slime Life gang scheduled to start next month. So 3 people entered pleas already. So you already know how this goes. If you watched any mafia movie, any of these RICO cases in the past, the person who's the boss or whoever gets left at the end after everybody else did they deal, you pretty much ain't getting much of a deal. You know what I'm saying? You're going to do the bulk of the time. And this guy probably saw the writing on the wall and said, forget that, man. I'm just going to go ahead and cop out like Gunna did. Maybe they didn't work in cahoots or anything like that, but it sure does seem like it. And for Young Thug, this is probably one of the worst outcomes that could happen, right? So him and Gunna ended up copping pleas, along with another guy who was unnamed. But I'm pretty sure his name will come out soon. Now, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office confirmed that Walter Murphy, the guy in the picture here, entered the guilty plea Tuesday, and Gunna, whose real name is Sergio Kitchens, entered a guilty plea Wednesday on a single count of conspiracy to violate Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act each. So he copped out to the same charge that Gunna copped out to, being involved in a RICO. Now, he had other charges within the RICO indictment, but that's the one he pled out to. Now, according to court documents, Murphy was sentenced to 10 years with 1 year commuted to time served and 9 years of probation as a part of the negotiated deal, the negotiated plea. So he got the same exact deal as Gunna, except he's going to be on probation, he's going to be on probation for 9 years. So he have probation for 9 years after this. And Kitchens, Gunna, was sentenced to 5 years with 1 year commuted to time served, and the rest of the 4 years of his sentence suspended and subjected to special conditions, including 500 hours of community service. He is required to spend 350 hours speaking to young men and women about the hazards and immorality of gangs, gang violence, and the decay it causes in the community, his attorney Steve Sadow says. So he went on to make his statement or whatnot, but it seems like Murphy, because of his prior convictions, his back was against the wall, and it was just maybe too sweet of a deal for him to plea out to one RICO conspiracy charge as opposed to going back and trying to fight against 10 years and these other charges that he have, which includes some of, I believe, like shootings and different attempted murders, I believe. So, man, he actually went to the news as well to speak on his behalf. So let's look at that. Because you would think, okay, if you're one of the alleged founders of YSL, you would think you'd be one of the last people to actually flip on Young Thug, you know? But maybe their bond isn't what it used to be because dude has been doing a lot of time in the past. And maybe it just wasn't enough for him to do more time. So let's check this out.
You're facing a tough challenge now. How are you going to get through that?
The same way I got through everything else, with God and my faith.
Murphy is charged along with more than 24 others in a sprawling indictment alleging a criminal street gang called YSL.
I would rather say he was more like a record label or a family. Once upon a time, I was actually a road manager on that label. I spent 7 years in prison. While I was in prison, I stayed out the way, and I just got my GED, completed all my classes.
So he's basically talking about the fact that he feels like he's reformed. You know what I'm saying? He ain't really in the streets like that anymore. And him being wrapped up in the RICO, he had no choice but to plead out. You know? Now, I don't know if he might have had a choice. He could have took it to trial, but that's just not a good idea in these situations, is what the professionals say.
Completed the transition center. I transitioned back into the world. I got me a job at the transition center.
He paid his debt to society.
Hudson says Murphy had been working until last week. The lawyer says in 2015, a prosecutor tried to get his client to cooperate against alleged YSL members, but he wasn't interested.
I did my time like a man.
Hudson says DA Fonnie Willis has mentored him since he was a young prosecutor.
She's my big sister, and I love her a lot.
And he's going to plead Murphy's cause to her, but he knows he's fighting an uptick in crime.
I just want the younger kids to know no matter what you did, whatever you think you're a part of, you're bigger than that, and you can overcome it.
Were you a founder of YSL?
No comment.
So see, at the end there, he never admitted to being a founder of YSL, even though that's the rumor that's out there. And I'm definitely gonna play that and break it down one more time. But I need everybody to focus, get in together and hit that like button, man, or get in here together. And hit that like button, man. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Bruh.
Let's go. But what you heard from him there is him kind of telling the story of him being a reformed or changed man. Do I buy it or believe it? Or do I think he wasn't looking just into his best interest by taking this deal? Not one bit. But maybe he's speaking the truth. It just seems all too convenient that the DA's office came down with all these deals this week. He got his deal on Tuesday, a day before Gunna got his deal yesterday. So it seems like somebody was working in the back end to make sure that they had enough evidence stacked up in these plea deals to use against Young Thug. That's what it looks like to me, man. Y'all tell me what y'all think, man. Let's go, man. That ain't slick, man. But let's listen to him one more time.
You're facing a tough challenge now. How are you going to get through that?
The same way I got through everything else, with God and my faith.
Murphy is charged along with more than 24 others in a sprawling indictment alleging a criminal street gang called YSL.
I would rather say he was more like a record label or a family. Once upon a time, I was actually a road manager on that label. I spent 7 years in prison. While I was in prison, I stayed out the way, and I just got my GED, completed all my classes, completed the transition center. I transitioned back into the world. I got me a job at the transition center.
He paid his debt to society.
Hudson says Murphy had been working until last week. The lawyer says in 2015, a prosecutor tried to get his client to cooperate against.
So you heard that. They were trying to get him to cooperate back in 2015. So in 2015, they were like, yo, man, come over here, man. Let's tell us what you know or whatnot, man, about YSL. We'll get you a better deal. And I guess he just did his time in that situation. This time, he thought it was better to take the plea deal.
Alleged YSL members, but he wasn't interested.
I did my time like a man.
Hudson says DA Fonnie Willis has mentored him since he was a young prosecutor.
She's my big sister, and I love her a lot.
And he's going to plead Murphy's cause to her, but he knows he's fighting an uptick in crime.
I just want the younger kids to know no matter what you did, whatever you think you're a part of, you're bigger than that, and you can overcome it.
Were you a founder of YSL?
No comment.
Yep, he said no comment. Because it's all about clearing his name. I get it, man. I get it. He wanted to clear his name. He didn't want to do that time. I get all that, man. But it seems like the person who's being left out there on an island by themselves is the guy who was feeding everybody, the alleged boss of YSL, Young Thug, man. And maybe that's the whole reason they orchestrated all these plea deals. Maybe that's the reason why they have all these people working against Young Thug in this YSL case. Because with this guy being one of the co-founders and alleged bosses as well, he's getting off with time served. Something seems weird about that, doesn't it? It seems like Young Thug is the big target, obviously, man. That's what these RICO cases were invented for, to get the guys at the top, right? But this guy right here, what did he agree to in his plea agreement? Did he agree to testify against Young Thug? Was he able to say, yo, YSL is a gang and a criminal organization as well, like Gunna did? So, man, it goes to show, man, that all that stuff, when everybody's cool, getting money, all that gang, we this, that, it'd be worth something then, man. But when times get tough and it really comes down, who's really going to be down for you is what's real, man. And that's wild, man. Now, hopefully you enjoyed that story, but do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you get a notification every time I do one of these updates. And we out of here. Peace.